to say about me. I love to sing and I love women.
Well, don't worry. Just like I promised you, I'm only having one drink. The audience laughed politely, thinking it was just another one of Dean Martin's charming gags. Everyone thought they knew the story behind Dean's seemingly effortless drunk act. After all, it had become part of his public persona, the relaxed, cool, ever-smiling entertainer who could turn a joke into a moment of magic. But one live television appearance shattered that illusion. That night, viewers got a glimpse of something raw, something painfully human that had nothing to do with entertainment. During that particular live show, Dean could barely keep himself upright. His normally smooth, confident persona seemed to have evaporated, replaced with an almost desperate need to perform, to keep the audience entertained, even as his body betrayed him. Producers wanted to cut to commercial, worried about what was happening on stage, but Dean refused. He kept going, singing, joking, interacting, as if holding it together was the only way to survive. For the viewers watching at home, it was the most heart-wrenching television moment of the era. The charming veneer was gone, revealing a man trying to use alcohol to numb the pain that life had thrown at him. "Tell us what we don't know about Dean Martin," the host prompted, and Dean's answer left the audience in stunned silence. The famous crooner, always smooth, always composed, was nowhere to be seen. What they saw was a man weighed down by grief, particularly the loss of his son in a plane crash, and by years of personal struggles that had never been public. This was not an act. This was Dean Martin. Dino Paul Crocetti entered the world on June 7, 1917, in a tiny two-room apartment above a shoemaker's shop in Steubenville, Ohio. His parents, Gaetano and Angela, were Italian immigrants trying to scrape together a living on almost nothing. Gaetano worked grueling 12-hour days as a barber, earning just $18 a week, while Angela scrubbed floors, washed clothes for neighbors, and did anything she could to keep the family from being evicted. There was no running water, and the family shared an outdoor toilet with 3 other families. Food was meager, usually bread, pasta, and whatever vegetables they could grow themselves. Dino didn't speak a word of English until he was 5. At Grant Elementary, his accent marked him as different, and classmates mocked him relentlessly. His older brother would often come along to translate, but even with help, Dino felt like he didn't belong. By the time he was 13, school had become unbearable. He told his mother he needed to leave and start earning real money for the family. His teenage years were marked by relentless hustling. Dino delivered bootleg whiskey across the Ohio River for 50 cents a day. By 14, he was running numbers for local bookies, collecting bets from steel mill workers who wagered their entire paychecks. During the day, he shined shoes at the country club, stocked shelves at local stores, pumped gas, and delivered newspapers before the sun came up. By 15, he had lied about his age to work night shifts at the steel mill for $125 a week. Each job was an exercise in survival. The work was grueling, the pay minimal, and the exhaustion unrelenting. Looking back, Dean would later say that the phrase, "easy does it," became his life's philosophy because he had already experienced the hard way of living. In addition to working tirelessly, Dino also started fighting. At 15, he adopted the moniker Kid Crochet and began stepping into underground boxing rings across the Ohio Valley. Between 1932 and 1936, he fought 36 matches, winning 25 and losing 11. The fights left him scarred, both physically and emotionally. One punch broke his nose, leaving it crooked for life. Unable to afford hand wraps, he fought bare-knuckled, shattering his knuckles repeatedly. A single hook once split his lip open, leaving a permanent scar and taking away feeling in parts of his mouth. That half-smile that would later charm audiences had its roots in these injuries. Dino joked about his record, saying, "I won all but 11, but every fight left something broken." In 1936, during a particularly brutal match at the Steubenville Memorial Auditorium, 19-year-old Dino took a rabbit punch to the temple and collapsed face first. He stopped breathing. It took 5 long minutes to revive him. When he finally awoke, he was vomiting blood and couldn't remember his own name. He spent 3 days in the hospital with a concussion so severe that the doctor warned him another blow to the head might be fatal. The hospital bill totaled $470, far beyond what his family could pay. Boxing was over. From that day on, Dino focused entirely on singing. By 1934, at just 17, he was singing at shady clubs in Steubenville while secretly dealing blackjack in back rooms. The crowds loved him. He copied Harry Mills of the Mills Brothers and earned modest tips, which were more than enough for a teenager trying to survive. Then came his first real professional gig. In 1935, band leader Ernie McKay hired him for $75 a week, a substantial sum during the Depression. Dino sang at the Walker House, the Rex Cigar Store, and any venue that would let him perform. He maintained a smooth, calm style that contrasted sharply with the violence and hardship he had endured. At the same time, Dino worked as a courier at the Rex Cigar Store, which was a front for an illegal casino operated by the Scola crime family. He ran the roulette wheel from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., earning $30 a week plus tips, 3 times what he made at the mill. When gamblers lost, he sang to calm them. When mobsters became agitated, he stayed composed. Federal agents raided the place twice, and both times Dino escaped through a back alley. On slower nights, he would perform under the name Dino Martini with dance bands. The mix of charm and danger would remain a defining feature of his public persona. By 1938, Dino's creativity and desperation took a darker turn. Living in Rue, a grimy New York apartment with fellow singer Sonny King, the two held bare-knuckle boxing matches in their living room, charging 50 cents per person to watch. The first night, Dino knocked Sonny out cold and made $12. They continued this dangerous enterprise 3 to 4 times a week until the landlord finally evicted them. The walls were stained with blood, and the fights were brutal, but the money helped them survive. In 1940, a major turning point arrived. Cleveland bandleader Sammy Watkins offered Dino $200 a week to tour, but there was a catch. Watkins said that Dino Crocetti was too ethnic and would limit his appeal. From that day on, Dino Crocetti became Dean Martin, an Americanized name that opened doors. From 1940 to 1943, he toured ballrooms across the Midwest, delivering smooth, effortless performances that audiences remembered. In 1941, Dean married Betty McDonald in Cleveland. They had 4 children, Craig in 1942, Claudia in 1944, Gail in 1945, and Diana in 1948. While Betty remained home with the children, Dean's relentless touring schedule meant he missed birthdays, first steps, and holidays. The marriage ultimately could not withstand the distance, and they divorced in 1949. Dean's past nearly caught up with him in 1942. Police raided a Cleveland gambling joint and arrested him alongside other dealers and performers. The charges were serious, but within a few days, the case was quietly dropped. Some suggested his old bootlegging connections helped. Dean never hid the arrest. Instead, he leaned into it, cultivating a mystique, the smooth guy with a shady past, a man who had seen the dark side of life and smiled anyway. In 1943, Dean was drafted into the Army but lasted only 14 months before being medically discharged due to a hernia. While other young men went off to fight, Dean stayed behind, a twist of fate that propelled his career forward. He performed at the Rio Bamba Room in New York for $500 a night, got his own radio show, Songs by Dean Martin on Watto in 1944, and in 1946, Diamond Records offered him a recording contract. The singles didn't immediately become hits, but his voice reached thousands of listeners and laid the groundwork for his future. The defining moment came on July 25, 1946. Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis were asked to perform at the 500 Club in Atlantic City because a scheduled act had canceled. Dean sang. Jerry made faces, improvised comedy, and the audience went wild. Within days, their weekly earnings jumped from $150 to $1,000. By September, they were performing at the Copacabana for $5,000 a week. Hollywood called, NBC called, and Paramount offered $50,000 per film. In 1949, My Friend Irma hit theaters and grossed $3 million. Although they weren't the leads, Dean and Jerry stole the show. From 1949 to 1956, the Martin and Lewis team made 16 films, earning Paramount over $50 million. Their live shows sold out night after night. At the Paramount Theater in New York, 4,000 fans stood outside waiting for tickets. Dean sang That's Amore in a Cadillac, and the song remained at number 2 on the Billboard charts for 10 weeks in 1953. Behind all the glamour, success, and charm, Dean Martin carried the scars of a hard life. Alcohol, humor, and performance were not just gimmicks. They were survival tools, shields against a world that had never been easy for him. He transformed hardship into effortless charm, tragedy into laughter, and pain into music. His audience only ever saw the smooth, smiling icon, but the man behind the crooner was a testament to resilience, grit, and the complex humanity that made Dean Martin unforgettable. After the breakup with Jerry Lewis in 1956, the world wondered if Dean Martin could survive as a solo performer. The partnership had made him a household name, and without Jerry's comedic antics beside him, some critics doubted whether Dean's charm alone could carry him. But Dean had faced far worse than critics. He had survived poverty, violence, and heartbreak. He knew how to persevere. His solo career began cautiously, with smaller venues and television appearances. Audiences who had laughed at the Martin and Lewis antics now waited to see whether the smooth-voiced singer could stand alone. Soon, Dean proved he could. He released hit singles like Volar, Memories Are Made of This, and Sway, each performance filled with his signature warmth and effortless style. Las Vegas became his playground. Packed casinos and theaters cheered as he performed live, often with an easygoing humor that hid the years of hardship behind his smile. It wasn't just singing. It was storytelling through music, charm, and impeccable timing. Fans and critics alike began to realize that Dean Martin's solo persona was every bit as magnetic as the one they had adored alongside Jerry Lewis. Behind the glitz, however, life had not become easier. Dean struggled privately with the lingering effects of alcohol, a companion he had long used to mask grief and pain. The death of his son in a tragic plane crash left him shattered. Those who knew him well noticed a subtle melancholy beneath his constant smiles, a hint of the man who had once performed despite barely being able to stand on live television. Family life remained complicated. Divorce, distance from his children due to relentless touring, and public scrutiny all weighed heavily. Yet Dean channeled his personal turmoil into performance, turning every show into a testament to resilience, humor, and survival. The late 1950s and 1960s marked Dean's association with the legendary Rat Pack, alongside Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop. Together they became icons of Las Vegas, blending music, comedy, and nightlife into something larger than life. The Rat Pack era wasn't just about entertainment. It was a cultural phenomenon. Dean, with his effortless charm, relaxed demeanor, and wry humor, became the embodiment of cool sophistication. Audiences packed into casinos not just for the music, but for the dynamic energy and camaraderie that only the Rat Pack could deliver. Movies like Ocean's 11 immortalized them on screen, while private parties, improvisations, and late-night performances created legends that would be recounted for decades. Television brought Dean Martin into millions of homes. The Dean Martin Show, which aired from 1965 to 1974, became a staple of American entertainment. The variety show allowed him to combine his singing, comedic timing, and charisma in a way that felt personal yet polished. The drinking gag, which had been a part of his public persona for years, became a running theme, always executed with self-aware humor. Dean's improvisation skills and effortless charm made the show a ratings hit, drawing both celebrity guests and everyday viewers into his orbit. Sketches, interviews, and musical numbers combined to create a show that balanced humor, class, and spectacle, exactly the elements that had made Dean Martin a legend. By the 1970s and 1980s, Dean's career slowed somewhat as health concerns and age took their toll. Heart problems, the cumulative effect of years of alcohol use, and the exhaustion of decades on the road became apparent. Yet his popularity never waned. Las Vegas shows continued to pack theaters. Nostalgia tours reminded audiences of his enduring charm, and public appearances kept him in the spotlight. Dean's resilience was as evident in his later career as it had been in his youth. He continued to perform not out of necessity, but out of love for entertaining and connecting with people. Dean Martin passed away in 1995, leaving behind a legacy that transcended music and film. Public reaction was immense. Fans mourned, celebrities paid tribute, and the media celebrated the life of a man who had defined an era of entertainment. From his humble beginnings in Steubenville, Ohio, to the bright lights of Las Vegas and Hollywood, Dean's journey was one of relentless perseverance, talent, and charm. Tributes poured in, reflecting on his humanity, humor, and timeless style. Even in death, he remained a symbol of effortless, cool, and enduring talent. A man who had turned hardship into art and life into performance. Reflecting on Dean Martin's life, it becomes clear that the man behind the smile was as complex as he was charming. Alcohol, humor, and performance were tools, shields, and outlets, allowing him to navigate the challenges of fame, loss, and personal struggle. Yet through it all, Dean Martin remained a master of his craft. His voice, once heard in smoky clubs, ballrooms, and theaters, became immortal through recordings, films, and television. His charm, effortless style, and humanity made him a lasting influence on music, comedy, and popular culture. Dean Martin's story is a testament to the power of resilience and authenticity. He endured hardship, survived tragedies, and turned the pain of his past into performances that brought joy to millions. Behind the smooth voice and wry smile was a man who had lived fully, struggled deeply, and loved profoundly. His legacy is not only in the songs he sang or the films he starred in, but in the way he transformed life's hardships into a timeless art form, leaving a mark that continues to inspire and entertain generations. Even after decades in the spotlight, Dean Martin often reflected quietly on life, fame, and happiness. Behind the effortless charm, the half-smile, and the smooth voice was a man who had endured poverty, violence, heartbreak, and loss. Dean once said in his wry, understated way that life was about easy does it. It was not about rushing, not about struggling to keep up with what others thought he should be. It was about surviving the hard way, learning from pain and finding joy in the small moments. He believed in living simply, laughing often, and never forgetting where he came from, no matter how high the lights of Las Vegas or Hollywood shone. Despite his public persona as a carefree, fun-loving entertainer, Dean Martin was generous behind the scenes. He quietly supported struggling friends and performers, often offering help without seeking recognition. He contributed to charitable causes, helped family members financially, and provided mentorship to younger artists trying to navigate the difficult world of show business. He did not seek publicity for these acts. It was simply his way of giving back, of making life a little easier for others, just as he had once struggled to survive himself. Dean's appeal was not limited to the United States. Internationally, he became a sensation. European tours brought him to London, Paris, Rome, and countless other cities, where audiences fell in love with his relaxed style, impeccable timing, and the warmth that made his performances feel personal. The same charm that captivated Las Vegas casinos and Hollywood theaters resonated with fans around the world. He influenced music and entertainment globally, becoming an archetype of cool, effortless charm that transcended language and culture. Even in his later years, Dean continued to make public appearances, reminding audiences of his enduring talent and charisma. The 1970s and 1980s saw him guest starring on variety shows, talk shows, and special television events, often reflecting on his career, his partnership with Jerry Lewis, and the lessons life had taught him. Nostalgia tours allowed fans to relive the magic of earlier decades, and Dean's effortless humor and smooth vocals made each appearance a moment to cherish. Behind the laughter and the music, audiences could sense the wisdom and humanity of a man who had lived a life far richer and more challenging than anyone could imagine. Dean Martin's influence on pop culture cannot be overstated. From film and music to television and comedy, he left a lasting imprint. Comedians, singers, and actors across generations cited him as an inspiration, often pointing to his timing, his stage presence, and his ability to convey warmth while remaining effortlessly cool. References to Dean Martin and his style appear throughout movies, television shows, and music, cementing his status as a cultural touchstone. The Rat Pack, Las Vegas performances, and his solo hits became templates for the charm and style that entertainers would emulate for decades. Awards and recognition followed naturally. Dean Martin's contributions to music, film, and television earned him Lifetime Achievement Awards, Hall of Fame inductions, and posthumous tributes. Peers and critics alike celebrated his enduring influence on entertainment. applauding not only his talents but the grace with which he carried himself throughout his career. Each award, each recognition, served as a testament to a life lived fully, a career shaped by talent, resilience, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. In the end, Dean Martin's legacy is timeless. He was more than the smooth voice, the playful onstage persona, or the effortless charm. He was a man who had endured hardship, survived personal tragedies, and turned life's challenges into art. His music, his films, his television shows, and his public appearances continue to inspire and entertain, reminding audiences of the power of resilience, humor, and humanity. Dean Martin's story is ultimately one of duality. The man the world saw versus the man who lived quietly, struggled privately, and persevered with dignity and humor. Alcohol, humor, and performance were both his shield and his bridge, allowing him to navigate the hardships of life while connecting deeply with audiences. Yet beyond the fame, beyond the accolades, Dean remained a man of warmth, generosity, and authenticity. He transformed pain into laughter, struggle into performance, and life into a legacy that continues to resonate across generations. Dean Martin, the man behind the smile, the half grin, and the smooth voice, was a master not only of entertainment, but of turning the human experience, complex, challenging, and often painful, into something beautiful, enduring, and unforgettable. Even decades after his passing in 1995, the world remembers him not just for his music, his films, or his comedy, but for the humanity, charm, and effortless style that made him a legend. Dean Martin's life serves as a lesson. True greatness is not just about talent or fame. It is about resilience, generosity, and the ability to find joy and spread it, even in the face of adversity. And that is why Dean Martin remains forever. The man who truly made life easy does it. Even after decades on stage and screen, Dean Martin's life was filled with stories that only those who worked closely with him could truly appreciate. Behind-the-scenes anecdotes reveal the man beyond the lights and cameras, a person of warmth, wit, and professionalism. On movie sets and during long tours, Dean had a way of making even the most chaotic environments feel calm. Cast and crew often marveled at his ability to remain composed under pressure, delivering his lines with charm while subtly diffusing tension with a joke or a smile. During Martin and Lewis productions, for instance, chaotic moments on set were common. Yet Dean's humor and calm demeanor often turned potential disasters into memorable moments that everyone remembered fondly. His interactions with co-stars and Hollywood legends further reveal the depth of his personality. With Frank Sinatra, Sammy Davis Jr., Peter Lawford, and Joey Bishop, Dean cultivated relationships based on respect, loyalty, and camaraderie. The Rat Pack was more than a professional collaboration. It was a brotherhood. Stories from rehearsals, tours, and late-night parties show Dean supporting his friends, mentoring younger performers, and sharing a quiet understanding of the challenges of fame. Improvisation was second nature to him, and whether on stage or in the green room, he could elevate the energy around him, making everyone feel both entertained and at ease. Dean Martin's influence on modern artists cannot be overstated. From singers and comedians to actors and stage performers, countless entertainers cite him as a source of inspiration. His timing, effortless stage presence, and cool persona have been emulated by generations of performers. Contemporary artists in music and comedy often reference his style, whether consciously or subconsciously, as they adopt the Rat Pack's blend of charm, humor, and performance sophistication. Dean's approach to connecting with audiences, balancing wit, warmth, and smooth vocals, remains a blueprint for entertainers striving to create lasting impact. Musically, Dean Martin brought innovations to vocal phrasing, stage performance, and integration of humor into music. His signature songs, including That's Amore, Volare, and Sway, demonstrated a unique blend of smooth vocal delivery, relaxed timing, and subtle dramatic flair. Dean's style redefined what it meant to sing pop and lounge music with effortless charm. He created performances that felt personal, intimate, and warm, yet polished and professional. His influence extended to jazz, pop, and lounge music, establishing techniques and styles that remain relevant in modern performance today. In his final years, Dean reflected deeply on his life, career, and family. Interviews and personal quotes reveal a man who had reconciled with aging, loss, and the challenges of a life in the spotlight. Despite health issues and the toll of decades on the road, Dean maintained a calm, wry humor that endeared him to fans old and new. He accepted the inevitable changes of time with grace, understanding that his legacy was built not only on hits and movies but on the relationships, performances, and humanity he shared with others. Dean Martin's impact on pop culture has only grown since his passing in 1995. From films and television series to advertising and public references, Dean remains an icon of style, charm, and cool sophistication. Rat Pack tributes continue in Las Vegas and around the world. His music is still celebrated and covered, and his image symbolizes the effortless elegance and charisma of mid-century entertainment. Whether in homage, parody, or inspiration, Dean Martin's influence resonates with each generation, ensuring that his legacy is immortal. Ultimately, Dean Martin's life is a study in duality: the public persona versus the private struggles, the performer versus the man behind the smile. He transformed hardship into charm, tragedy into humor, and the challenges of life into performances that brought joy to millions. His resilience, generosity, and human warmth shine through every anecdote, song, and performance. Alcohol, humor, and performance were not just part of his act. They were tools he used to navigate the complexities of life while sharing joy with others. Dean Martin's story teaches enduring lessons about resilience, humanity, and the art of connecting with people. Beyond the fame, accolades, and applause, he remained a man of depth, vulnerability, and grace. He transformed life's difficulties into timeless art, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire and entertain. He was more than a singer, actor, or comedian. He was a symbol of what it means to live fully, face adversity with dignity, and share joy with the world. Even decades after his passing, the world remembers Dean Martin not only for his music, films, and comedy, but for his timeless persona. A man who made life look effortlessly charming while reminding us all that the struggles behind the smile are often what shape true greatness. Dean Martin, the master of cool, the icon of charm, and the man who truly made life easy does it, remains immortal in the hearts of fans and the history of entertainment.